Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tasya Marzalifa, and I will be the moderator for today's presentation. Thank you for being here. Today, our group will present a topic about subcultures. We hope this presentation can help us understand the material more clearly. Let me introduce the presenters for today. First, we have Meli Maharani, then M. Ikhwanul Fajri, dan Indah Fitri Kurniawan, Tasya Marzalifa, and Marsyah Alfizar. Okay, uh, now let's begin. To Meli Maharani, time is yours.
Okay, thanks to the moderator. Next slide, please. Here I will explain about subcultures. The title is Who Do You Hang Out With? Every culture in each country contains subcultures. Subcultures are often associated with age groups, educations, professions, hobbies, or lifestyles. People may become members of the other subcultures because they provide social support to each other in order to pursue their goals and dreams. Jadi, maksudnya subcultures ini hadir karena ada culture. Dan subcultures ini adalah sekelompok kecil dalam masyarakat yang punya gaya hidup, nilai, minat, dan perilaku yang berbeda dari budaya utama atau mainstream. Contohnya seperti kelompok penggemar musik tertentu, komunitas skateboard, gamer community, atau kelompok dengan gaya berpakaian yang khas. Jadi intinya, mereka tetap bagian dari masyarakat besar, tapi punya identitas dan cara berinteraksi yang unik daripada kelompok lain. Okay, next slide, please. Here I will explain about teenagers, youth, and others in subculture. First, let's talk about teenagers. Teenagers refers to people with teen in their age, such as 13 to 19 years old. The term of teenager is currently used to describe boys 11 to 16 years old. In many cultures, teenagers have their own culture that is different in some respects from the mainstream culture. For example, like K-pop fandom, gaming community, anime or otaku culture, and etc. Next, please. Now we talk about youth or adolescent. Youth generally refers to young people operating in the public sphere as part of a social group, and most typically it is associated with boys rather than girls. For examples like entrepreneur youth, creative art community, eco-friendly youth, etc. Or we more familiar with seperti kayak di kampung ada kelompok pemuda, pemudi, masjid ini, masjid itu. And the last we talk about others. These groups exist regardless of age. These subcultures exist because of shared interests and certain lifestyle. For example, like nerd, who's the community that love books and
Sorry, excuse me. Isn't it today week 15?
Sure. Maaf, Miss. Ma'am.
Week 15, right? Today, week 15, and we talk about the pragmatics, not yet subcultures. But that's okay. So meaning that the next group, you're going to talk about pragmatics. Yep, so you can continue now with these subcultures, but then next week, coming back to pragmatics, because week 15 is supposed to be pragmatics. Yep, okay, you continue then?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. The second example, such as foodies, the groups who likes some kind of food and they make their own community. Next is motorcycle or automotive community. Atau kita lebih akrab menyebutnya dengan geng-geng motor seperti geng motor Vespa atau yang sebagainya. Next slide, please. I think that's all from me. I give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you for your explanation, Meli. Now let's move on. Padri, please continue.
Okay, thank you for moderator. The first one I will explain is sex and gender. Sex refers to physiological, genetic, and hormonal differences that categorize individuals as female, male, or intersex. So next one is gender. Socially constructed roles, behavior, and expectation include masculine, feminine, non-binary, and culturally specific identities. Next slide, please. So, gender, the social and cultural attribute. The first one is gender roles. Gender roles, social expectation about how men and women should think, speak, dress, and behave. For example, men are associated with strength, rationally, and being the provider, and women are associated with emotion, nurturing, and the domestic sphere. Maksudnya di sini tuh kayak aturan yang tidak tertulis tentang bagaimana laki-laki itu dan perempuan seharusnya bertindak. Nah, sebagai contohnya tuh laki-laki itu dianggap harus kuat, logis, dan menjadi pencari nafkah. Sedangkan perempuan itu dianggap emosional, penyayang, dan mengurus rumah. The second is gender identity. A person deeply felt internal and individual sense of being a man, woman, both neither or somewhere else along the gender spectrum. This may not correspond with the sex assignment and at birth. Maksudnya tuh kayak perasaan internal seseorang mencari dirinya, apakah ia itu sebagai laki-laki, perempuan, atau keduanya. Identitas gender ini tuh biasanya bisa sama atau berbeda dari jenis kelamin yang diberikan saat lahir. Sama tuh kayak cisgender, yang berbeda tuh transgender. And the last one is gender expression. Gender expression, the way a person outwardly present their gender through style of dress, behavior, and appearance. Maksudnya, secara seorang menampilkan gendernya kepada orang lain, misalnya lewat gaya berpakaian, penampilan, perilaku, dan bagaimana orang tuh menyampaikan gaya berbicaranya. Selanjutnya, gender across culture. From different culture define gender in different way. The first one, Western culture. Western culture emphasize individual identity, whether acceptance of gender diversity and increasing visibility of LGBTQ plus groups. And the second is Asian cultures, more traditional gender roles, strong influence of family and social expectation, gender diversity of less visible. And the last one, indigenous and Pacific culture. Many recognize third gender identities like Two-Spirit or Native American, Afafine from Samoa, Hijra from India, Pakistan. And maksudnya tuh di sini tuh kayak hmm, yang Western culture tuh menekankan identitas individu dan kebebasan personal, lebih menerima keragaman gender seperti non-biner dan transgender, dan komunitas LGBTQ+ tuh lebih terlihat dan lebih aktif di ruang publik. Nah, dibandingkan dengan Asian culture, biasanya memiliki peran gender tuh lebih tradisional yang lebih kuat. Keluarga dan masyarakat tuh memiliki pengaruh yang besar dalam menentukan eh, bagaimana laki-laki dan perempuan tuh harus bertindak. Dan keragaman gender sering kurang terlihat atau kurang dibicarakan secara terbuka. Maybe that's all for me. I give it back to moderator.
Thank you to Fajri. Now let's move to the another topic. Will be presented by Indah. So Indah, time is yours.
Thank you to the moderator. Okay, I will explain about feminism. Feminism is a social and intellectual move on that focus and achieving equality between women and men in all areas of life. This movement emerged as a response to the injustice experienced by women in society, from education and work to bodily rights and representation. This means feminism aims to ensure that both genders achieve the same rights, chances, and respect. It challenges unfair treatment and works toward a society where gender does not determine someone's opportunities. The next is main goals of feminism. The first is providing equal opportunities in education, employment, and the decision making. Women should have the same chance as men to study, work in any field, and take leadership roles. The second is eliminating discrimination based on gender. Feminism works to remove unfair treatment that happens only because someone is a woman or does not fit traditional gender expectation. The third is empowering women to have control over their own bodies, life choice, and careers. Means women should have full freedom to decide about their health, lifestyle, future, and professional pay. And the last is encouraging change in social norms that restrict women. Many cultures still expect women to behave or live in certain ways. Feminism encourages society to rethink this limiting expectation. Next slide, please. Next is we move on to wave of feminism or brief. The first is first wave. Focus on legal rights, especially the right to vote or suffrage. This wave fought for basic legal recognition. This biggest achievement was women gaining the right to vote and participate in politics. And the second is second wave. Address issues of work, education, sexuality, and family roles. Women demand equal job opportunities, fair pay, and freedom in personal life. This wave pushes for deeper social equality. The third is third wave. Highlight diversity among women, inclusivity, and rejection of stereotypes. This wave emphasizes that women are not all the same. Their culture, backgrounds, and identities matter. It challenges narrow ideas of how women should be. And the last is fourth wave. focus on digital equality, sexual violence, and advocacy through social media. Modern feminism uses social media to fight gender violence, harassment, and inequality. Campaigns like Me Too began in this way. Next slide, please. Issues feminism fight for. The first is gender equality in the workplace, salary promotion, and opportunities. Women often receive lower pay or fewer chance for promotion. Feminism work to close this gap. The second is equal access to education. Girls and women should have the same educational opportunities as boys and men. The third is legal protection from gender-based violence. Feminism pushes for strong laws to protect women from harassment, assault, domestic violence, and other harms. And the last is fair and accurate representation in media, politics, and public space. Women should be shown accurately in media and have equal voice in government and public leadership. Next is why feminism is still relevant. Despite significant progress, gender inequality and stereotypes still exist in many countries, such as unequal household responsibilities, career barriers, social pressure, and various forms of violence. Feminism continues to push for a world where everyone is valued equally without limitation based on gender. Please. Next, please. Maybe that's all for me. I'll give it back to the moderator.
Thank you for your explanation, Ida. Now I will explain about LGBTQ plus community. The LGBTQ plus community is a social group made up of people with diverse sexual orientations and gender identities that often differ from mainstream heterosexual culture. The LGBTQ plus community refers to, in many societies, heterosexuality is considered the norm, so people outside this norm are often seen as different. Because of these differences, members of the LGBTQ plus community have historically experienced misunderstanding, exclusion, and discrimination. However, in recent years, this community has become more visible and widely discussed, especially in education, media, and social movements. Meaning of LGBTQ plus. L for lesbian, it means women who are sexually attracted to women. G for gay, generally men who are attracted to other men. B for bisexual, it means attracted to both men and women. T for transgender, gender identity that does not align with biological sex. Q for queer, does not clearly identify as male or female. Plus, it means other identities, including intersex. Intersex, refers to people who are born with biological characteristics that are not clearly male or female. Why are people sexually diverse? There is no clear or single explanation for why some people are sexually diverse. Some believe that biological factors such as hormones before birth influences sexual orientation or gender identity. Others think that life experiences, social environment, or personal development play a role. Because there is no definitive scientific agreement, experts continue to discuss and study this topic. This shows that sexuality is a complex issue that cannot be explained from one perspective alone. Now, last, gender identity and pronouns. Some modern theories suggest that human beings have the right to choose the gender identity they feel most comfortable with, whether as a woman, as a man, or neither, non-binary or queer. Based on this view, gender identity is seen as personal and individual, not limited only by biological factors. Because of this, some people feel uncomfortable using traditional pronouns like he or she, and reverse gender-neutral pronouns such as they or them to better represent their identity. Now, let's move to the another presenter, LGBT in Indonesia. Marsha, time is yours.
Thanks to moderator. So I will explain about LGBT in Indonesia. Indonesia is a country with a very complex and mixed culture and religious background. This led to two strong opposing forces at the same time. The first one, the supportive force or progress and community. There are three supportive forces. The first one, international influence. Global human rights efforts have helped inspire and support LGBT communities in Indonesia. The second, local activism. Since around 2000, there are local organizations and networks fighting for the right of LGBT people. The next, community building. In many cities, people can find support through casual meetup, festival, and film screenings that discuss LGBT issues. This show a growing visible community. The second, the opposing force, official and social rejection. There are two opposing forces. The first one, government stance. Government ministers and official bodies have made strong negative statements. They have labeled the first homosexuality as a mental disorder or social disease. The second, LGBT groups as a corrupting and a threat to their country's values. The third, they clearly state the same-sex marriage or union are not allowed. The second opposing force, general public opinion. Overall, many Indonesians reject LGBT identities, often influenced by conservative religious and cultural views. Jadi di sini ada dua kekuatan yang saling bertentangan pada saat bersamaan. Yang pertama yaitu kekuatan pendukung atau kemajuan dan komunitas LGBT di Indonesia. Yang pertama itu pengaruh internasional. Upaya hak asasi manusia global telah membantu menginspirasi dan mendukung komunitas LGBT di Indonesia. Yang kedua, aktivisme lokal. Sejak tahun 2000-an terdapat organisasi dan jaringan lokal yang membantu hak-hak komunitas LGBT. Yang ketiga, pembangunan komunitas. Di banyak kota, orang-orang dapat memperoleh dukungan melalui pertemuan santai, festival, dan pemutaran film yang membahas isu-isu LGBT. Jadi ini komunitas terlihat semakin berkembang dan terlihat. Yang kedua, ada kekuatan penentang, penolakan resmi dan sosial. Pertama ada dari sikap pemerintahan, menteri dan badan resmi pemerintah telah membuat pernyataan negatif yang kuat. Jadi ada 3. Yang pertama itu homoseksualitas sebagai gangguan mental atau penyakit sosial. Yang kedua, kelompok LGBT sebagai merusak dan ancaman terhadap nilai-nilai negara. Yang ketiga, mereka dengan jelas menyatakan bahwa pernikahan atau ikatan sesama jenis itu tidak diperbolehkan. Jadi kekuatan penentang kedua itu adalah opini publik umum, or general public opinion. Secara umum banyak orang Indonesia menolak identitas LGBT yang seringkali dipengaruhi oleh pandangan agama dan budaya yang konservatif. Jadi, kesimpulan dari materi saya, di Indonesia itu terdapat komunitas LGBT yang berkembang dan suportif, tetapi mereka menghadapi penolakan resmi yang kuat dari pemerintah dan ketidaksetujuan sosial yang meluas dari sebagian besar masyarakat umum. That's all for me. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Marsha. Thank you to all presenters for the explanations. We hope everyone has gained a better understanding of this topic. Now we will move to add material. Anyone has to the add material? If anyone has, raise your hand, please. If not, we will move to Q&A session. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand. Oh yeah, I forgot. We just take the 5 questions. Okay. The first question I give to Putriani. For Putriani,
Thank you, moderator. Pertanyaan saya my question is, the phenomenon of cancel culture among teenagers is often used to punish behavior that is considered inappropriate. So, does cancel culture provide more social educational benefits, or does it cause greater psychological harm to the teenagers involved? That's my question.
thank you. Can you put your question in WhatsApp group, please?
Okay.
Okay, next question we give to Nurul Wulan Ramadhani. For you, please.
All right, thank you, moderator, for such a great presentation. So I would like to ask a questions about LGBT. So as Indonesians, we know that LGBT issues trigger a lot of controversy. Some people say that LGBT is a part of human rights and therefore should be accepted. However, in Indonesia, where religious and traditional values are deeply rooted, is this acceptance still necessary? Should we promote LGBT campaigns regardless of whether it is considered a part of human rights or not? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Nurul Wulan Ramadhani. Can you put your question in WhatsApp group, please?
Okay.
Okay, the next question we will move to Andriani Felsa. So Andriani Felsa, please.
Okay, thank you to the moderator. So my question is, which identity in LGBTQ do you think is most important to explain in school settings and why? Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you put your question in WhatsApp group, please? Okay, two question more. So Hilal Sadikin, for you, please.
Okay, thanks to moderator. I would like to give a question. My question is, should all subculture be accepted in the name of cultural diversity, or are there ethical limits, and what defines these limits? Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hilal. Put your question in WhatsApp group, please. Hi, the last question we give to Karine Lovia Valenica. Please, your question, please.
Okay, thanks to the moderator. So my question is, how can the international community influence the acceptance or rejection of the LGBT groups in Indonesia? Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Please put your question in WhatsApp group.
All right.
Okay, the last question to Azifa. Please, your question.
Okay, thank you for moderator. So my question is, in your opinion, do subcultures have a more positive or negative impact on the younger generation? Please provide your reasons and the evidence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Azifa. Please put your question in WhatsApp group. Okay, now give us some time to answer the question. If anyone wants to help us answer the question, please raise your hand. Guys, because the presenters are thinking about the answer of the questions, please turn on your camera. Let's check the attendance. to Hazifah, Hilal. Masih banyak nih yang belum nyalain kameranya. Kita mulai aja ya. Slide 1, pose ya. Take a cheese. Slide 2, ya. Pose. Thank you guys. Okay, I will answer the question from Ilal Sadikin. The question is, should all subculture be accepted in the name of cultural diversity, or are there ethical limits? What defines the limit? Maksudnya di sini, sebelum itu kita jelaskan subkultur dulu itu, yaitu kelompok kecil dalam masyarakat yang punya gaya atau nilai berbeda. Jadi keberagaman budaya berarti kita menghargai perbedaan cara hidup, kebiasaan, dan cara berpikir orang lain. Mereka bisa membawa warna baru, kreativitas, dan cara pandang yang unik. Namun tidak semua subkultur bisa diterima begitu saja. Ada batasan etis yang perlu dijaga agar tidak merugikan orang lain atau masyarakat. Batasan etis itu ditentukan oleh hal-hal dasar seperti hak asasi manusia, keselamatan, tidak merugikan orang lain, tidak melakukan kekerasan, dan tidak melanggar hukum. Selama subkultur tersebut tidak berbahaya, tidak diskriminatif, tidak mengajak melakukan kejahatan, dan tidak menyakiti orang lain, maka bisa saja diterima sebagai bagian dari keberagaman budaya. Sebaliknya, subkultur mendorong tindakan kekerasan, kebencian, penyalahgunaan, penipuan, kriminal, atau hal-hal yang merugikan orang lain. Tidak bisa dibenarkan atas nama keberagaman budaya. Menghargai perbedaan bukan berarti membiarkan hal yang berbahaya terjadi. Jadi, keberagaman budaya tetap penting, tapi harus disertai batasan yang melindungi keagamaan dan hak semua orang. Kita tetap bisa merayakan perbedaan selama tidak ada yang dirugikan, dan nilai-nilai dasar kemanusiaan tetap harus dijaga. Okay, that's my answer. How about you, Hilal?
Okay, that's clear. Thank for the answer.
If anyone against for my answer, let's raise your hand.
Izin moderator, I will answer the question from Putriyani. And the question is about the phenomenon of cancel culture among teenagers is often used to punish behavior that is considered inappropriate. So does cancel culture provide more social educational benefits, or does it cause greater psychological harm to the teenagers involved? And the answer, cancel culture among teenagers offers a harsh form of social education by enforcing norm, but its psychology harm is greater. The intense public shaming and permanent digital stigma often cause severe anxiety and trauma, outweighing any potential reason because it focuses on punishment rather than reduction or learning. Jadi maksudnya cancel culture di kalangan remaja menawarkan bentuk pendidikan sosial yang keras dengan menegakkan norma, tetapi dampak psikologinya itu lebih besar. Rasa malu di depan umum yang intens, permanen, seringkali menyebabkan kecemasan dan trauma yang parah yang dapat mengalahkan potensi pembelajaran karena berfokus pada hukuman. That's all from me. Apakah Putriani understand with my answer?
Okay, thank you for your answer.
All right.
Izin moderator, I will answer the questions from Azifa. The question is, in your opinion, do subcultures have a more positive or negative impact on the younger generation? Provide reason and evidence. My answer is subcultures can have both positive and negative impacts on the younger generation. Overall, the impacts depends on the type of subculture and how deeply a young person becomes involved. Jadi banyaknya positif atau yang negatif efeknya itu tergantung pada orang itu sendiri. Kalau dari orang itu mengikuti kegiatan yang positif seperti komunitas seni dan musik, komunitas literasi, komunitas olahraga, komunitas lingkungan, komunitas teknologi dan gaming positif, ini akan memberikan dampak positif seperti sense of belonging and identity kepada mereka. Selain itu juga akan menumbuh dan mengembangkan kreativitas dan self-expression-nya. Selain itu juga akan memprovide social support. Jadi dalam komunitas itu ada setiap anggotanya akan memberikan support secara emotionally dan socially. Sedangkan kalau di kegiatan yang diikuti itu adalah kegiatan yang negatif, seperti
Izin Atira Salsabila. Your mic is on.
Sorry guys,
Atira Salsabila, your mic is on.
Okay, I will continue my answers. Jadi kalau kegiatan yang diikuti itu kegiatan negatif, maka akan memberikan dampak negatif kepada pengikut subculture itu. Kegiatan negatif ini bisa berupa geng atau kelompok jalanan, geng foya-foya, clubbing, subculture online toxic, kelompok dengan ideologi yang ekstrim. Komunitas-komunitas ini akan memberikan dampak negatif kepada anggotanya seperti peer pressure and conformity, yaitu menghadirkan kebiasaan atau sifat yang tidak sehat, yang di jalan yang tidak sepatutnya, seperti risky fashion, spending pattern, or social habit. Kedua yaitu ini berpotensi untuk sikap antisosial. Sebagian subcultures may promote rebellion, aggression, or rejection of social norms. And the last is identity conflicts. Joining a strong subculture can cause conflict with family or school expectations. Jadi kesimpulannya, dampak yang lebih banyak itu negatif atau positif itu tergantung pada komunitas apa yang kita ikuti. I think that's all from me. I give it back to the moderator.
Izin moderator, I will answer Felisa's question. This question is, which identity in LGBT do you think is most important to explain in school settings and why? Kalau jawaban saya sendiri, yang paling penting dijelaskan itu adalah orientasi seksual, yaitu pengenalan tentang seksual itu sendiri, bukan untuk membenarkan atau mendorong perilaku tersebut, tetapi untuk memberikan pemahaman dasar agar siswa tidak salah menafsirkan istilah yang sering muncul di media atau pergaulan. Penjelasan ini tuh membantu siswa mengetahui fakta secara objektif sehingga mereka tuh tidak mudah terpengaruh oleh informasi yang salah dan tetap menjaga sikap saling menghormati tanpa harus menyetujui identitas tersebut. Nah, contohnya itu ketika siswa menanyakan arti kata gay atau biseksual, guru itu dapat menjelaskan secara netral bahwa istilah-istilah itu menggambarkan jenis ketertarikan tertentu tanpa memberikan dukungan atau dorongan terhadap perilaku tersebut. Nah, penjelasan ini tuh dilakukan untuk mencegah ejekan, kesalahpahaman, dan penggunaan istilah dengan cara yang merendahkan. That is my answer. How about you, Felisa?
Okay, thank you, Tinda. I understand your answer.
Okay, I will answer the question from Karin Lovia Flinika. So the question is, how can the international community influence the acceptance or rejection of LGBT groups in Indonesia? So the international community can influence Indonesia acceptance or rejection of LGBT groups through the first one is global pressure and campaign. Jadi negara atau organisasi internasional itu dapat memberikan tekanan agar hak asasi manusia itu dihormati. Yang kedua, media and culture. Film, berita, dan media sosial dari luar negeri bisa membentuk cara pandang masyarakat Indonesia. Yang ketiga adalah support programs. Lembaga internasional bisa memberikan edukasi serta tentang toleransi dan hak manusia. Yang the last one is political and economic relation atau hubungan kerjasama bisa mendorong pemerintah mempertimbangkan standar global tentang hak hak LGBT. Dan komunitas internasional dapat mempengaruhi penerimaan LGBT di Indonesia melalui dua cara. Yang pertama itu mendorong penerimaan melalui tekanan diplomatik atau dialog antar negara dan pendanaan bagi organisasi HAM lokal. Tujuannya tuh adalah mendorong kepatuhan Indonesia pada prinsip HAM global. Yang kedua itu memicu penolakan atau reaksi balik. Jadi tekanan asing sering memicu penolakan keras dari kelompok domestik dan pemerintah yang menganggapnya sebagai intervensi asing yang bertentangan dengan nilai agama serta budaya lokal. Jadi intinya pengaruh internasional itu bersifat dua arah. Ia bisa mendorong perubahan atau malah memperkuat penolakan domestik. Maybe that's all for me. I give it back to moderator. Apakah Karen paham dengan penjelasan saya?
I got your point. Thank you.
Maaf sebelumnya, gimana Azifah atas jawaban tadi?
Terima kasih atas jawabannya, untuk penyaji. Saya paham dengan jawaban yang diberikan.
Okay, the last question from Kak Nurul Wulan Ramadhani. Ada nggak yang mau jawab dulu gitu? If anyone want to answer this question, please raise your.
All right, I will try to answer the question from Kak Nurul. Uh, as Indonesian, we know that LGBT issue trigger a lot of controversy. Some people say that LGBT is a part of human right and therefore should be accepted. However, in Indonesia, where religious and traditional value are deeply rooted, it is acceptance still necessarily. Should we promote LGBT campaigns regardless of whether it is considered a part of human?
Your mic is off.
So I will explain. I will try to answer the question from Kak Nurul. As Indonesian, we know that LGBT issues trigger a lot of controversy. Some people say that LGBT is part of human right and therefore should be accepted. However, in Indonesia, where religious and traditional value are deeply rooted, it is acceptance still necessary. Should we promote LGBT campaign regardless of whether it is considered a part of human right or not? Oke, di Indonesia tuh penerimaan isu LGBT itu memang kompleks. Karena nilai-nilai agama dan tradisi adat istiadat memang kuat. Jadi, saya bisa mencoba menjelaskan dari berbagai perspektif. Nah, yang pertama tuh menerima sebagai hak asasi manusia. Jadi beberapa orang tuh berpendapat atau mengatakan bahwa hak asasi manusia itu adalah universal dan tidak bisa ditawar, termasuk hak mengekspresikan identitas seksual. Jadi menerima LGBT itu sebagai bagian dari hak asasi manusia itu memang memberikan perlindungan dan keadilan bagi semua individu. Yang kedua itu nilai-nilai agama dan tradisi. Jadi di sisi lain, banyak orang-orang di Indonesia itu berpegang pada nilai-nilai agama dan tradisi yang tidak menerima LGBT. Penerimaan LGBT itu mungkin mereka menganggap tuh kayak bertentangan dengan keyakinan mereka pribadi. Sebagai contoh uh, agama Islam. Dan uh, apakah promosi kampanye LGBT itu perlu uh, dilakukan di Indonesia? Mungkin lebih efektif untuk fokus pada pendidikan dan dialog tentang hak asasi manusia dan toleransi tanpa harus mempromosikan gaya hidup tertentu. Dengan demikian dengan cara begitu kita bisa meningkatkan kesadaran dan pemahaman tentang isu LGBT tanpa pemaksaan atau memaksakan penerimaan terhadap LGBT itu. Jadi kesimpulan, jadi kesimpulan yang bisa saya sampaikan tuh penerimaan LGBT di Indonesia memerlukan pendekatan yang sensitif dan kontekstual, dialog dan dialog dan pen- dialog dan pendidikan tentang hak asasi manusia itu dan dialog dan pendidikan tentang HAM dan toleransi bisa menjadi langkah awal yang positif. Mungkin itu yang saya sampaikan. Bagaimana menurut Kak Nurul? Apakah cukup?
Thank you, Group 6. It's understandable.
Okay, because our questions have been answered, that's all for today's presentation. Thank you for your attention and participation, and have a nice day. That's all for our group. I say thank you and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi